In a world of false nines, 9.5s, and actual midfielders playing up front, it seems like the poacher is something of a lost art in football. You can call them tap-in merchants or goal hangers, but the finishing ability and inevitability of a poacher is an asset for any team. If you can sign a poacher, especially a younger one, and build around them getting chances, all you need to do is sit back and watch the goals pour in. I think AS Monaco are reaping the benefits of signing Mika Biereth this January for that exact reason. And I think Arsenal are regretting selling him last summer. Monaco signed Biereth from Sturm Graz for €13 million after the Danish striker left Arsenal in July last year. Something that should already catch the eye. Sturm Graz have been something of a striking factory of late. Emmanuel Mega, Kelvin Yeboah, and Rasmus Højlund are all exports from the Danish club. Biereth was the top goalscorer in the league when he left, with 16 combined goals and assists in 16 matches. However, it's his record at Monaco since joining that has fostered attention. 10 goals in his first 8 games is a great feat by itself, but 3 hat-tricks in that time is good enough for anyone to be keeping an eye on him. I think Mika Biereth is the best poacher in Europe right now, and his interesting stats this season back this up. First, let's quickly mention Mika's weaknesses. A good measure of praise that can be given to him is the fact that his clear weaknesses, suggested by low percentile rankings in certain metrics, aren't relevant to his games or strengths much at all. If we look at Biereth through the lens of a poacher, his low take on success isn't an issue. Alongside low rankings for progressive carries and carries into the penalty area, we can tell that dribbling isn't a part of his game by design. For a poacher who's meant to operate in the often crowded penalty area, having a low percentile ranking for short pass completion is expected as well. As for his strengths, throughout this video, I want to highlight why Biereth fits the criteria I have for an elite poacher. We'll be judging him on 3 general poacher-focused criteria: a preference for operating close to the goal, a high propensity for taking shots, and a great finishing ability. The rest of this video will serve as a bank of evidence to prove that Biereth ticks off each of these criteria. Looking back at Biereth's percentile rankings, we can already see evidence that the Dane likes to play in the opposition area. A high ranking for penalty area touches suggests that he's very active in that area, and his lower rankings for progressive passes and carries into the penalty area suggest that most of his actions are taking place in the box. We can also look at the general location of his touches to prove that he likes to work close to the goal. Looking at the number of touches taken in the penalty area as a proportion of overall touches, Biereth ranks 3rd, only behind Gonzalo Ramos and Erling Haaland. When he's on the ball, it's normally in the box. We can also look at this on a match level basis. One of Mika's best games so far was during Monaco's league game against Reims, where he scored one of his 3 hat-tricks. During this game, he only took 25 touches. However, most of these touches were very central, in or close to the penalty area. A good portion of his touches were taken beyond the penalty spot as well. Looking at his touch plot, his territory was very clearly within the upper area of zone 14 in the penalty area, a poacher's territory. What can be established is that Biereth clearly isn't the type of player to drop deep and help with build-up. He's a finisher, someone who definitely meets the first criteria that qualifies a striker as an elite poacher. Mika Biereth likes to shoot. Again, returning to his percentile rankings and looking specifically at his shot-related numbers, we have clear evidence that Biereth is a volume striker. An 89th percentile ranking for shots per 90 shows this. Another quality that we could look at is his movement. A good poacher takes chances. An elite poacher creates his own chances by getting into good shooting positions. We can look at a player's non-penalty XG and their non-penalty XG per shot to quantify this. Luckily, Biereth performs brilliantly on both. Biereth ranks top in Europe for non-penalty XG per 90, and a 97th percentile ranking for non-penalty XG per shot is just as impressive. Not only are Biereth's shots being taken from good positions, but he's creating these high-quality chances very often in matches. This suggests that his movement is a consistent and active part of his game, which puts him in the upper echelon of poachers. Biereth shoots a lot, but is that the main focus of his game? Of course, it'd be surprising given all this evidence if he were more of a passer than a shooter, but it's always good to check. His action plot measures a player's propensity to carry, pass, or shoot based off of what he does per 100 touches. Being closer to one of the triangle's vertices is an indication that the player favours the action associated with that vertex. In the case of Biereth, sitting closest to the shooting vertex suggests that Biereth does indeed have a propensity to shoot. So, we have evidence that Biereth likes to get the ball close to the opposition goal and that he loves to shoot once he gets it. This is a great sign of a poacher. But what's the worth in all that movement and forward thinking if he can't even finish the chances that he gets? Proving that Biereth is a good finisher doesn't require much visualization or calculation. This season, he ranks in the 80th percentile for goals minus non-penalty XG. This is proof of a good finisher. One minor point to criticize Mika on, however, is his low aerial duel win rate. Standing at 6'2", Biereth isn't super tall compared to the defenders he's likely to face, and he doesn't face many duels in general. But adding this facet to his skill set would add greater depth to his ability. Biereth meets the criteria of not just a poacher by nature, but an elite poacher by quality. One of the best ways to summarize his abilities comes from the visualization that inspired this analysis. When searching for good poachers, I briefly looked at average shot distance and finishing ability. Mika Biereth finds himself in the top right corner of that scatter plot, suggesting a low average shot distance and a strong finishing ability. You could call him a tap-in merchant based off of that alone, but the third variable in this scatter, non-penalty XG per 90, revealed the uniqueness of Biereth in that he's able to consistently showcase his movement and finishing at a very high volume every game. Is this just a purple patch? That will be revealed over time. When a team has a talismanic poacher, opposition defenses will make it their mission to crowd and mark him out of games. It will be even tougher for Biereth to sustain the quality that he's shown thus far. But if he can, there's a non-zero chance that his stay in France may not even last a full year, as other clubs consider new striking options. Hopefully, Arsenal haven't completely burnt his bridges with him.